And I'm delighted to say that I am joined with Saunders. Saunders, how are you, firstly? A massive thank you just for appearing on the show.
Oh, no problem. Thanks for having me. Yeah, I'm doing very well, thank you. Very, very much looking forward to this weekend. It's I don't want to go ahead and say something a bit outlandish, but I feel like this could be one of the spiciest season finales we might be having.
Oh, well, we had a spicy one last season, if you remember, because Cassidy was on his way, and then the incident with Buemi, and it all fell into Jake Dennis's lap. Like, if we can get something like that again, it would be unreal 2 years in a row.
A Absolutely, we've got that, but then we've also got the added drama of two teammates going against each other at the top.
Yes.
I don't think. Wait, look, thinking. I don't think we've ever had that.
No. Not until
No,
probably Nico. I don't even think Nico Prost was massively in it with
maybe
back in the
season.
season 1 or 2, but he wasn't. It was
Yeah,
mainly
I don't
Buemi and
think not to this
Degrassi.
degree anyway.
Not to this degree, 100%. So we got a couple of questions just lined up. So what we wanted to start with was just your best moment so far from this season. Like, I know we've had so many great moments, but if there was one moment for you, what was it?
I mean, every season comes with such an abundance of amazing moments. But I'd say on track, the one of the best moments I think for me is I really that Sam Bird overtake in Sao Paulo
Yes.
was just, even though it hasn't really had that much of an effect on the entire season or the championship standings and things like that, but I don't know. There's something about that move, the way that it happened, like at the point of the race where it happened, where everyone was struggling with temperature issues and people's tires were falling off, and Tom Brooks' voice went that
Yes.
to speak to only dogs in Sao Paulo. It was just one of those magic motorsport moments where the whole broadcast just reacts to some carnage happening on screen, and then it was backed up by Oliver Rowland
Yes.
overtaking Pascal and Jake.
Yeah, 100%. That Sao Paulo has been absolutely brilliant for races, and in terms of the peloton style as well. Like, it's probably one of the only places where the peloton works brilliantly. Like Sao Paulo, 2 seasons in a row has had some amazing racing there.
Yeah, it's a really, really good venue for that. I'm glad to know that we're going back as well, because it does deliver actually, because it's not just about the kind of energy sensitive style of racing that we've come to kind of see quite often in Formula E. It's just the speed that they can get on that main
Yeah,
straight going into the first corner, and there's enough regen available for those teams with the less efficient powertrains that you can actually get some shock results from the likes of, Mahindra powered cars or ERT, for example. So it's
yeah.
good.
So then, who's impressed you the most this season? Because there's a lot of drivers who've done a lot of good things.
Yeah, I'm going to give you two answers to this one, because I think this is absolutely zero discredit to him as a driver or him as a person. But if you'd asked me at the start of the season, there are certain people that I probably wouldn't have predicted to be where they are.
Yeah.
There's someone like Jev, for example. So Jev is obviously a two-time world champion,
Yep.
very, very accomplished driver. He just seems to be able to do amazing things even when energy is against him. But to say, he'd be in the championship fight or towards the end of the season, I'm not sure if I would have said that. But the one person I'm going to say that really has impressed me, and this is mainly down to his mental resilience and his character, is Antonio Felix da Costa.
Yeah.
Because, not to talk too much about Brazil, but back in Brazil, in Sao Paulo, he was a shell of a human being.
Yeah.
Things were really not going his way. He felt like the team had completely turned against him. He wasn't able to bounce back from bad results by racing in the other championship that he loves racing in WEC. So it was all kind of, everything felt against him. And I had a couple of one-on-one conversations with him, and he was like, this feels like the worst
Yeah.
time. And then just to see, now we're speaking going into the doubleheader in London, and the guy has won 4 of the last 5 races.
Yeah. It's
And that
incredible.
is an unbelievable turnaround.
Yeah, and it's amazing because you've been there. You've been to all the races. You've seen the driver's mentality or mental state, and obviously the switch. And obviously, I know Mazzano was taken away from him, but even though Mazzano was taken away from him, it was probably the best thing that happened to him because it gave him that sense of yes, I can do this, and then the springboard from that for him, mentality wise. As I spoke to him in Berlin and Monaco, I was like, the mentality from that was huge, and the way that he's bounced on and continued that form, like in Formula E, especially in a championship that's so you can so easily be inconsistent. It's incredible what
Mm.
he's done.
Yeah, I mean, just look at the what could have been, and that's the kind of that is in the back of his mind, I think, based on what he said in Portland. That if things had gone his way earlier in the season, this could be a proper championship fight
Yeah.
where he's up there in the top three or better. Whereas I think what's happened is he doesn't want to claim that Mazzano has allowed him to
Yeah.
unlock that performance, because then you're suggesting that you need the bad times to have the good times, which is
Yeah.
obviously not a healthy place to be. But he is a driver that has known his fair share of adversity over the
Yeah.
years. He's. I remember when he won the championship. I've got the benefit of having have worked in Formula E since really end of season 3,
Yeah.
properly start of season 4. So I spent a lot of time with these drivers, and some of them I'm fairly friendly with socially as well,
Yeah.
out off the racetrack. So you kind of get attached to people and you want them to
Of
see them do
course.
well. And Antonio, is such a great guy. When he won his championship, everyone was so happy about it, because
Yep.
we know he really deserved it as a person. And he'd been right down there, like P nowhere for
Yep.
that Andretti team back in the day, where it just nowhere near the Andretti highs that we see today. But he struggled, and then he got there, and he remembered everybody that was with him in the moments when he was nowhere.
Yeah.
And since then, there's this kind of really nice shared respect with a lot of journalists like yourself and people on the production and the presenting team, that he's always willing to give his time. And I think then you kind of want someone to do well. So I'm very glad he did have that big bounce back.
Yeah. 100%.
But who's to say that it was possible? It could have been more. But if you just look at the last half of the season, he's massively outscored Pascal, and
Yep.
Pascal is in the championship fight.
It's incredible, really. And what I thought was interesting that he said to you, though, in the press conference race 2, is the first thing he said, I'm angry. And I was like, and you kind of get that sense of like, I wonder why he said that, which we probably could explore this weekend. But it's kind of that I feel it's like that sense of, if this, like you kind of said earlier, like if this had gone my way or if things had turned around, I'd be going into London with the chance to take his second championship or first world championship.
Yeah, I mean, as much as I think he doesn't want to believe that, the Mazzano had to happen for the rest,
Yeah.
I actually personally believe that there is a bit of that in there.
Yeah.
He's had to kind of deal with that almost fight or flight approach, where he's had to, right, and now I have to put the results in, because
Yeah.
not only is this annoying me or affecting me, it's that this potentially might jeopardize my options next year. Um, and then, but it's kind of fair to say as well, there's a handful of races where he didn't feature as much. But if you look back at his race, he actually had a good race. He was just unlucky.
Yeah. It's a
So
bit
maybe
like a
that
football
performance
player.
could,
In
yeah,
terms of a
maybe
striker
that
not scoring a
performance.
goal. And then finally they scored a goal, and then all of a sudden they can score a goal, many goals again. But it took them that
Yeah,
while.
I think so. And there's a great deal of confidence that comes with that. I'm literally fresh off the golf course with Jake Dennis and Sam Bird today. And we talked a little bit about that just as we were playing, about, the resilience needed when
Yeah.
you're having a bit of a rough ride.
Yeah.
And it does massively affect you, and it can change for the better as quickly as it can change for the worse.
All right, then. So let's talk about this weekend slightly, because obviously it's a big weekend. In terms of the championship fights, I'm going to ask you, who do you think's going to do it this time? On Sunday, who are we crowning? Who are you speaking to in the press conference room as world champion?
It's so hard, because I think we have a really, really strong top 3, and although mathematically there's a 7 that can win it,
Yep.
for anyone DaCosta, Jev, Roland, Dennis, they really need Mitch, Nick, and Pascal not to score any points whatsoever in the first race, and I just think that's unlikely. Obviously, things could happen.
Yep,
We don't
we
know,
know.
but so I'm thinking those top 3 for the championship, but I do think it is going to come down to Cassidy or Evans,
Okay.
and they're going to have to play that first race in London so smart. I would not want to be James Barkley this weekend. I feel like he might not have any hair left come Sunday evening, because there undoubtedly is going to be a situation where one of them wants to overtake the other, and potentially maybe not. They'll qualify really far away from each other, and then in London it's harder to overtake, so maybe that won't be a problem. But just look at the stats based on racing there most recently in Gen 3. On the first day in London last year, even though he didn't keep it because of a penalty, Mitch Evans was on pole. In the second day in London, Nick Cassidy was in pole. It's the same Jaguar-powered car, albeit with a lot of software tweaks for sure. But these are 2 drivers that know how to qualify well in a race where qualifying well is probably more important than it has been at any other point this season. And that's not just because of the championship, but because of the track as well. So I think it's going to go down to one of those two. What I'm really interested in is who's going to be the third.
Okay.
Who might creep into second or who might creep into third. I wonder whether it will be Pascal or potentially whether we might see his teammate overtake him kind of towards the end, and maybe Da Costa finishes third.
Yeah, which would be interesting. Like, it'd be. I think Verline, for me, I think these types of tracks suit him. I don't think the Peloton style of racing kind of suits him. I don't like. He's not a Nick Cassidy. Nick Cassidy likes to get his elbows out. It feels like, and is okay at climbing those positions. Verline, just from the outside, just seems to struggle when when you want him to climb the positions. I was listening to his team radio, and he was in Portland, and he wanted Da Costa to kind of slow down, but then the team was telling him to catch up and make sure you're staying with him, and it was all very frantic on the radio. And I just think maybe for Verline, these types of tracks where qualifying is important, and he's shown in places like Diriyah where qualifying is important, that he can do well on those tracks. So I think for Verline, if he has a chance at the championship this weekend, qualifying for him is crucial. So I think for him, I don't know who's going to be champion. I think if you put my hand, I know Nick Cassidy could have come into this with a massive lead if it wasn't for Portland and the Saturday incident, but I think he's just been immense this season. And I think for me, that's who I put my money on. I know he's got a 13-point lead, and I know that's the easiest to say, but if Evans won it, the story would be immense. So I've got one question here. Just your weekend. I was asked from a fan. It was like, what does your weekend look like? Starting from Friday, like what brings the weekend together from a presenter side of things?
Well, my weekend actually starts on a Thursday, which is the Formula E Media Day. So I do a lot of the digital filming on a Thursday. So Alexa, Katie, and sometimes John and I do our preview show for YouTube, which goes usually filmed on a Thursday morning, edited and put together, and it either goes out Thursday night or Friday. So that starts then amongst some other kind of other social and digital filming on a Thursday. Sometimes as well on the broadcast side of things, we do a lot of our VTs and our openers on a Thursday, ready for the race show and the qualifying show on the weekend. So that's what Thursday looks like. And then on Friday, it starts with a track walk. That's something I've done every race I've ever been to since season 4. I've always done the track walk. So that's a bit of content there, but also I use it as an opportunity to talk to drivers and kind of get a bit of information ahead of the weekend, talk to different team members about characteristics of the track, or just kind of get a sense of where they might be in their kind of mood, just for 2 parts, one for filming with them in the week and knowing what sort of mood they might be, whether they're particularly uptight, and don't push them too hard because they're just going to not want to talk to you. And also just know where their head might be when it comes to the racing. So that's the track walk. And then after that, there's a bunch of meetings and kind of boring bits like that. The next main thing is a press conference. So I host the press conference, the team principal, and then the driver press conference. And then from there, it's kind of picking up odd little bits of filming that might be taking place, both digital and broadcast, for the shows or for social for release after the race. And that tees me pretty much right up into rehearsals and the show for Free Practice 1, of which I am like a pit lane reporter during the session, speaking to team principals and stuff in the pit lane during the session, the driver that is quickest at the end, and then that kind of goes into the FE show, kind of the FP1 show on TNT, and also on YouTube, which is I kind of then have some other interviews I might do, or might join Nikki or Radzi, whoever, and have a little chat towards the end of that show. And that's Friday wrapped. And then on a Saturday, it's straight in, early doors, ready for the same thing for Free Practice 2. Then qualifying, and then we get into post-qualifying, where I do a live show around the autograph session, so talking to lots of different drivers, as many as possible, but it's kind of a two-way conversation with people online as well, so they'll send their comments, say, oh, let's go talk to Dan Ticktum, and I'll go down to Dan Ticktum and kind of act as a surrogate of the fans who can't be there. And then it kind of, somehow in between that, we need to fit time to eat lunch.
Yes.
So then there's a lot of meetings as well about, we go into a production meeting where we talk about, okay, what's happening on the grid? Who are we going to talk to? What are the main storylines we want to get out? What celebrities might there be that we want to try and feature? What are the main topics? That kind of thing. Where's everyone going to be logistically
Yeah.
on the grid as a presenter point of view. A couple of bits there on the grid for TV, and then the race starts, and I'm in my position in the pit lane, ready to give kind of some strategy insights, kind of
Yep.
the Ted Kravitz role for Formula E, I'd say,
Yeah.
the closest thing to it at least during the race. And then that takes us into all the post-race interviews with I basically try and get as many of the people that weren't on the podium.
Yeah.
So anyone that's had like a shock bad result, or someone that's climbed up well, or someone's had a shock good performance, I'll kind of hunt them down in the paddock after the race to get that into the post-race show. Then it's press conference, and then that's all rinse and repeat on Sunday. The only difference is on Sunday is then after all that's finished, then we do the debrief show,
Yep.
YouTube live show, in the paddock to kind of wrap up the weekend.
It's frantic, isn't it? It's absolutely frantic. Like,
Yeah, it's a lot, and I think I'm the only one that really juggles both the digital and the broadcast presenting.
yeah,
So yeah, it can be a lot, but I'm very much the sort of person that likes. I would rather be busy than sitting on my hands.
yeah. Because for me, like, apart from like the mornings on a Friday, Saturday can be quite quiet. But as soon as for video content, as soon as the race finishes, like, I come alive. Like, it's like boom, boom, boom. Interview this person, grab this person. Who are we going to speak to? Well, who do I want to speak to? And then it's like bam, 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 edit, bush, bush, and then sometime you've got to eat dinner like you at that point. So it's like, when do I fit all this in? But yeah, amazing, Saunders. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on. Hopefully in the off season we can have a bit of a longer show. Maybe get some fans, have you on live, and get them to ask their questions to you directly. I think that would be amazing.
Absolutely, I'd love that. Yeah, just let me know, and I'll make it work.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Pleasure.